My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Well, I'm Ann Stewart, and I come up with this idea with the Boy Scouts coming in here to help me to put the flags on all the veterans in this Mapleview Cemetery. I called Stones River and asked them why aren't they doing the veterans in all the other cemeteries. They said they don't have enough money to do it. So that's when I decided I'll do Mapleview. We've got over 3,000 veterans in here. So I said, well, I'll do it, even if I have to do it out of our pocket. We're going to put flags on their graves.
Good morning. Thank you very much for coming out here for the fallen soldiers. We appreciate you every year. I'm going to let your Scoutmaster start it.
Color Guard! Present the cover! Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's a lot of graves in here, so I decided to go with the Boy Scouts. I thought the Boy Scouts does a good job. They can earn a patch. So I think this was the best job for these Boy Scouts, and I am really grateful to them. They've helped me for the last 5 years. That's when I started this.
Memorial Day is a U.S. federal holiday wherein the men and women who died while serving in the United States Armed Forces are remembered. The holiday, which is celebrated every year on the final Monday of May, was formerly known as Decoration Day and originated after the American Civil War to commemorate the Union and Confederate soldiers who died in the Civil War. By the 20th century, Memorial Day had been extended to honor all Americans who have died while in military service. It typically marks the start of the summer vacation season, while Labor Day marks its end. Memorial Day is not to be confused with Veterans Day. Memorial Day is a day of remembering the men and women who died while serving, while Veterans Day celebrates the service of all U.S. military service members. The practice of decorating soldiers' graves with flowers is an ancient custom. Soldiers' graves were decorated in the United States before and during the American Civil War. Following President Abraham Lincoln's assassination in April of 1865, there were a variety of events of commemoration. The sheer number of soldiers on both sides who died in the Civil War, which was more than 600,000, meant that burial and memorialization took on a new cultural significance. Under the leadership of women during the war, an increasingly formal practice of decorating graves had taken shape. In 1865, the federal government began creating national military cemeteries for the Union war dead. Memorial Day speeches become an occasion for veterans, politicians, ministers, and nobodies like me to commemorate the war and at first rehash the atrocities of the enemy. They mixed religion and celebratory nationalism and provided a means for the people to make sense of their history in terms of service for a better nation. People of all religions, beliefs joined together, and the point was often made that the German and Irish soldiers had become true Americans in the baptism of blood on the battlefield. By the end of 1870s, much of the wartime rancor was gone, and the speeches praised the brave soldiers, both blue and gray. By the 1950s, the theme was American exceptionalism and duty to uphold freedom in the world. The ceremonies and Memorial Day address at Gettysburg National Park became nationally well known, starting in 1868. In July 1913, veterans of the United States and Confederate armies gathered in Gettysburg to commemorate the 50-year anniversary of the Civil War's bloodiest and most famous battle. The 4-day blue-gray reunion featured parades, reenactments, and speeches from a host of dignitaries, including President Woodrow Wilson, the first Southerner elected to the White House after the war. James Heflin of Alabama gave the main address. Heflin was a noted orator. Two of his best-known speeches were an endorsement of the Lincoln Memorial and his call to make Mother's Day a holiday. His choice as Memorial Day speaker was criticized, as he was opposed for his support of segregation. However, his speech was moderate in tone and stressed national unity and goodwill, gaining him praise from newspapers around the world. I want to mention just a moment just the traditional observance of Memorial Day. On Memorial Day, the flag of the United States is raised briskly to the top of the staff, then solemnly lowered to the half-staff position, where it remains only until noon that day. It is then raised to full staff for the remainder of the day. Memorial Day observances in small New England towns are often marked by dedication and remarks by veterans, state legislators, and select men. The half-staff position remembers the more than 1 million men and women who gave their lives in service to our country. At noon, their memory is raised by the living, who resolved not to let their sacrifice be in vain, but to rise up in their stead and continue the fight for liberty and justice for all. The National Memorial Day Concert takes place on the West Lawn of the United States Capitol. The concert is broadcast on PBS and NPR. Music is performed, and respect is paid to the men and women who gave their lives for our country. For many Americans, the central event is attending one of the thousands of parades held on Memorial Day in large and small cities all over the country. Most of these feature marching bands and an overall military theme, with the National Guard and other servicemen participating, along with veterans and military vehicles from various wars. One of the longest-standing traditions is the running of the Indianapolis 500, an auto race which has been held in conjunction with Memorial Day since 1911. It runs on the Sunday preceding the Memorial Day holiday, which is tomorrow. The Coca-Cola 600 stock car race has been held later the same day since 1961. The Memorial Tournament, golf tournament, has been held or close to Memorial Day weekend since 1976. I want to speak to you Scouts now. What you're doing today, the leadership that you're displaying, the values, ethics, morals, will stay with you forever. I've never seen a more disciplined group of youth in my life. I salute you. God bless our fallen, their families, and the United States of America. Thank you. At this time, taps will be played by Rolling Thunder.
Rolling Thunder was started from the Operation Rolling Thunder during Vietnam to let the people and the government know about the POW MIA issue of the soldiers left behind overseas, not in their final resting places here. Rolling Thunder's main issue is for anything for the veterans, military. We do all your escorts, funerals. They deserve, if they fought for your country to give you the rights that you got freedoms here, then they should be laid to rest at their final resting place peacefully. And that's what we do.
Color Guard, retire the colors.
I want to thank the Rolling Thunder for a good job that they do, and they will continue doing a good job. As long as we stay active out there, which they do, we'll be there for the vets.
Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber ways of grain, amber ways of grain. From sea to shine.